Hi all. We will give it a couple more minutes for everyone to join in. But while we're waiting, it's good to see you all. It's good to have you with us. My name is Eva. For those of you who don't know me, and we've got Elizabeth with us as well. We work for Filisia Interfaces here in London and in Greece. So we work in different locations, and we make inclusive learning therapy and play systems for people with cognitive and physical disabilities. And yeah, the theme for today is technology and inclusion. So we will get to the agenda in a couple more minutes, but just a few details. So the meeting is recorded today. That's why the videos are off. And the webinar will be visible on our website after the meeting today. So we will share it widely with you if you would like to share it or rewatch it. Feel free to post questions in the chat as we go, and me and Liz will answer to those. There will be 2 polls during the webinar today, so we would encourage you to take part in those with just a couple of quick questions and satisfaction survey once the meeting is ended today. So we would appreciate your honest feedback, how you would rate the webinar, and if there's anything you liked in particular or anything you would like to learn more about during future webinars. So while we're waiting for more people, we will make a soft start. So if you could introduce yourself in the chat, what you do, where you're from, maybe an interesting fact about you, if you'd like to share anything, and what you hope to take away from today's webinar. If there's anything in particular you're interested in, if there's anything in particular you would like to learn about. So I'll start with our quick introductions. So my name is Eva, a quick pronunciation guide for my name. I'm originally from Poland, but now I live in Cambridge and I work in London together with Elizabeth. We also have Alexandros without today, who works with us as well, but in Greece. So hi, Alexandros. I come from quite an education-focused family. Both my sister and my mom work with children in nursery and school. I have worked in education since I was 16, so since always, first tutoring kids in my neighborhoods in numeracy, maths, and foreign languages. Then working in SEN education with autistic young people, and now I volunteer for a charity called Ignite Hubs here in the UK, where we teach coding to kids with additional learning needs. And I also have an older brother with Down syndrome. And with Liz, Liz works here with us as a partnerships and development manager. Her family is from Ghana in West Africa, but Liz now lives in Stratford. She has a dog called Zola. She's worked in education for many years as well, with both neurodiverse and neurotypical children, and alongside teachers. She also has autistic family members, and she's part of a church run by her dad, who's a reverend, and she used to teach Sunday school, which is a cool fact about Liz. So we've got Kathy with us. Kathy's from the Netherlands, and they are our partner. So they resell Cosmo, which is our product. And Kathy would like to learn how to use Cosmo more in inclusion regular schools. So we will be talking a little bit about a pilot study we recently ran with families in the UK with both neurotypical and neurodiverse family members. And we'll be talking about other tools promoting inclusion as well. So yeah, so for those who just joined now, we are making quick introductions. So feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, where you're from, what do you do, and what is the thing that attracted you to today's webinar, if there's anything else you would like to learn in terms of inclusion and technology. So the agenda for today is an overview of research on inclusive play. So there are two articles in particular that are really interesting in terms of inclusion and technology. They were done by the University of Washington and University of Leeds, but no scientific jargon today. They are very accessible, and we will share links to those with you after the meeting today. So I would really encourage you to have a look at them. They investigate inclusive play, and they describe barriers to inclusive play, why it's difficult from the perspective of adults and children as well, which is really interesting. And we will get to it. And they propose what could facilitate inclusive play in terms of some provisions we put in place and tech tools that could support inclusive play and technology that could help facilitate it. So we will talk at the end about some apps and products that can come in handy when facilitating inclusive play. So as I mentioned, feel free to pop your questions in the chat as we go, and me and Liz, we will try to answer them as we go. Liz, if you see a question in the chat, just feel free to interrupt me.
No worries.
Cool. All right. Okay, let's make a start. As we know, play is the first thing we used to learn from the very early ages. It's an intrinsically motivated experience for kids. It helps them to learn to cooperate with peers, communicate better, form new friendships, and maintain those friendships. It helps them to control impulses, develop important social and emotional skills, and learn to take, understand, and appreciate different perspectives. And all of that is the basis for inclusive play and for inclusion. All right, just a quick introduction from Lewis.
Yes.
Let me just read it out loud. So this is Lewis from Barcelona. Lewis is one of our partners as well, and partners of main robotics, programming, and STEM companies improving education. And yes, I'm a Cosmo reseller in Spain at Robotica. It's good to have you, Lewis, with us today. Okay, so inclusive play. Let's get down to the barriers indicated by research. This is the list of the main barriers that can make inclusive play between children with and without disabilities difficult. So those are some things that can make it difficult, indicated by adults, by parents, carers, and teachers at schools, at mainstream schools. So to start with advocacy and training, there's a need for greater level of advocacy and education for parents, teachers, and carers, and by parents, teachers, and carers on how to facilitate inclusive play. From the perspective of parents, from the side of parents, they indicated that they very often need to fight stigma and isolation experienced by children with disabilities. And they also need to work hard to change the mind frame of and the perception of disabilities among children without disabilities and their parents or carers. There's the need for greater intentionality. So let me explain what that is exactly. That would be the need for specific high quality inclusion plans and very often appropriate curriculum that can enable to adapt and individualize activities based on children's preferences, abilities, and strengths in mainstream education. So it's basically wouldn't be just putting children in the same classroom but really putting measures in place that can bring them together. There's a greater need for planning and collaboration among adults. From the perspective of parents, that would be planning to set up play dates among kids with and without disabilities, and then extra effort to monitor those play dates. But also there's the needs for collaboration between parents of kids with and without disabilities, and the willingness to understand that there needs to be collaboration and taking different perspectives to facilitate that inclusive play. Also extra support for parents, carers, and teachers to facilitate inclusive play, but also support for children to be able to use each other's strengths and build up on each other's strengths to use their interests, and also supporting them to understand diverse needs and diverse strengths and be able to use those to play together. Parents of kids without disabilities, they indicated during the research that their main concern is the fear of the unknown. So what they don't know about disabilities and what kids don't know about disabilities. And that can cause frustration, anxiety, and confusion among kids, among neurotypical kids and kids without disabilities. So there's the need for that extra support to understand diverse needs and to shift perspective to concentrate more on the abilities, not on the disabilities. And last but not least, greater efforts needed to set up and monitor inclusive play and play dates, especially with considering busy lives and hectic the days of both parents, carers, and teachers. That can be the main barrier and the main difficulty and the main obstacle for inclusive play. So here we come to a quick survey. If you have a look at the poll that you should be able to see now, let me know if you cannot see it. So which of those barriers would you consider the greatest ones and the biggest ones in terms of inclusive play? So for now, we've got support for teachers and parents to facilitate inclusive play, and the preparation needed to set up inclusive play, 50-50. We've also got fighting stigma and isolation, which is a big one, time and effort required to facilitate. Cool. Yes, for now, fighting stigma and isolation is the biggest one that you chose. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on. So those were the barriers indicated by children. By parents, sorry, by adults. And an really interesting thing is what children say about inclusive play and why it might be difficult for them to interact with their peers with disabilities. So the most common theme was the need to rely on the adults to participate in inclusive play. And based on different specific physical and cognitive disabilities, that would be being physically slower, struggling to hear, needing a bit more time to understand the rules, needing and asking for more support and more guidance. And those can be difficulties both for kids with disabilities and without disabilities, and they have different aspirations for play. And kids without disabilities, they often tend to engage in more advanced and more challenging play, which is not accessible for kids without disabilities. And they may tend to play with children of similar ability to be able to play those advanced and challenging games. And all of that leads to a lack of confidence among children with disabilities and preference to play alone and engage in solitary play. And all of that is just missed opportunities for progression for kids and for meaningful interaction. So those were the barriers, both from the perspective of adults and kids, and but how we can overcome those and how we can make sure that we put measures in place to facilitate inclusive play. The most common theme indicated by research was providing safe and comfortable environment for kids to have plenty of opportunities to shine, succeed, share interests, and build on those interests to find similarities among each other, and using strengths and abilities and concentrating on those abilities rather than disabilities to really thrive in that mainstream environment. But also transparency about diverse needs and disabilities kids might have. So explaining to kids without disabilities how to react to those, how to approach kids, how to communicate with them, and what to expect from some stressful situation that might arise during play with them. The two articles indicated two types of support as well that adults can provide during inclusive play. The two of them are direct and embedded support. So direct support would be directly educating kids on diverse disabilities, different needs, and providing some linguistic and physical tools that can be used by kids during play. So in terms of language tools, those would be some specific expressions kids can use during inclusive play. For example, it bugs me when you do this and that, or it will help me if you did something differently, or I wish you could do this and that. In terms of physical tools, those would be play scenarios and social stories for kids to use during inclusive play. And embedded support, that would be providing implicit opportunities for inclusive play. So instead of preparing specific activities that would be designed for inclusive play, those would be activities requiring from kids to collaborate, cooperate, take turns, and participate all together to achieve a common goal. And the last thing was the need for adjustable resources and adjustable technologies. So tools that can easily be adopted and customized based on each child's individual needs and interests and preferences. And here we come to a second poll. So let me just quickly find it. Oh, sorry, let me just close it down for a second. Okay, I seem to struggle with opening one poll, but feel free to put in the chat which of those you think would be the most important ones to facilitate inclusive play. And if you think there is anything else that can support kids and parents during inclusive play, have you tried to facilitate inclusive play, and what do you think might work that we haven't listed here? Because we're sure there are so many other ways we can support kids. So whether you think direct support is more important, or do you think this might consume again too much time to provide, especially safe environment? Thanks. Yeah, that was the most common theme indicated by parents and carers and teachers, and that transparency about different special needs and abilities, and educating kids without disabilities how to understand those and appreciate those, and really take what's best, and not concentrate on what kids can't do, but what they can do. And adjustability. So cool, thank you. So yeah, so making sure that we have resources that can be tailored to different needs and abilities. So yes, and thanks, Louis. Adjustability too. Cool. Okay, let's move on. So here we come to a question, how we can maximize children's opportunities. So how we can make sure that we use those facilitators, and that we put things in place that can support them, and that can ensure progression. So first of all, that would be decreasing the effort required to facilitate interaction. We hear from so many families and so many teachers here at the UK at Filisia that time is the issue most of the times, and the efforts to facilitate interaction between kids. That would also be encouraging interaction implicitly. So we mentioned this embedded support. So we would like to provide opportunities for kids to take turns and to communicate, collaborate, and cooperate to achieve common goal. So not just for them to be in the same space, but really interacting together to do something together, to achieve something together. So we'll be offering those embedded opportunities for inclusive play and for meaningful interaction and cooperation, and also putting in place adjustable resources and technologies that can be well adapted and quickly adapted to individual needs and abilities. So can technology be a tool for inclusive play? The research indicated yes. A lot of parents had concerns when using technology for inclusive play. They said that even when kids use technology, they tend to just interact with technology, and they are not really interacting with each other. So technology needs to be designed in a way to provide that implicit support and opportunities for taking turns, for cooperating and communicating to finish the game together and to achieve something together. It needs to enable innovative and collaborative ways of interaction, and if it provides that implicit support, it can really allow more inclusive play moments, and it can be a medium of positive and meaningful interaction for interaction that wouldn't otherwise be possible. So what parents said about using technology is that it can help those children find their voices and be able to really participate and access activities that would otherwise be impossible to access, and being able to reach out to another child who needs support or friendship via any mode of communication, like for example technology, can only be positive. So before we move on to some other tools and resources and apps and products, this year we ran a pilot study which aimed to investigate some of those things that we just talked about. So we ran a Cosmo pilot study with families in the UK who have both neurotypical and neurodiverse family members. And what we wanted to investigate was how technologies can support quality family time and enable inclusive play among siblings, cousins and peers. So families here were using Cosmo for 6 weeks. So they were using our system, which is an app consisting of 18 activities that support different areas of development. So they support different skills. They use a lot of turn taking, and they foster collaboration and communication. So what we found out after those 6 weeks was that Cosmo and other technologies can really foster inclusive play. They help kids with disabilities initiate play with their siblings and peers. They can help them communicate. They can help them cooperate. For example, older siblings can explain the rules to younger siblings. And we heard from a lot of parents that children played better with the use of Cosmo than they would before. So before, they wouldn't engage in play together, they wouldn't communicate, and they wouldn't really initiate that interaction with each other. And with the help of Cosmo, they could. So some of the feedback from parents: we've really enjoyed playing with Cosmo. The kids have loved the fireworks, voice recording, and playing the tunes. And it's helped them play together when ordinarily they wouldn't have played so well together. So the last part today would be some apps and products that can facilitate inclusive play and that can support and foster inclusion. So here at Filisia, we made Cosmo, which is an inclusive learning, therapy, and play system consisting of buttons and the app with 18 basic activities. The activities aim to train different sorts of skills: communication, collaboration, physical skills, emotional regulation, sensory processing, taking turns, waiting. And they provide those embedded learning opportunities through play. So they provide this implicit supports for kids and opportunities to participate together and to work together to achieve a common thing. And it's designed for people with different physical and cognitive disabilities, but also for early years foundation stage. Some other great products and tools we've come across recently and we think are invaluable for inclusive play and this interaction. For example, ControlOne, which is a smart digital DJ controller and instrument for live performance or recording music in the studio. It's an accessible joystick that is easy accessible for people with physical disabilities, and can be played by anyone, no matter the ability or musical skills. And it really enables participation and collaboration and having access to those activities and opportunities that people wouldn't have access to otherwise. Talk for Me is a text-to-speech app. And there are a lot of text-to-speech apps available on the market, but this one is really unique as it was designed by a person who lost the ability to speak. The person who uses the app is able to read words instantly after writing them. So the app reads words instantly after they're written, which enables everyone to communicate fast and efficiently. The app saves the most used phrases, which you're able to customize on the spot. So that enables really quick and easy communication. For example, if you go to a cafeteria, you can have the most used phrase. For example, I would like to order, and then you just input something that you would like to order. So instead of writing the whole sentence, you can do it quickly on the spot. And it doesn't require an internet connection. So anyone can use it anywhere if the network is down during offsite trips, and both in school, home, and different environments. Sit With Us is a social networking app for kids and young people, which aims to promote kindness and inclusion in schools. And it's really cool in the same way because it was designed by a young person who was a victim to severe bullying in a mainstream environment. And the app allows you to plan lunches and other social events together with your peers. So you post an event online, and the students in your school can join the event, and you can join other events. So it really creates a sense of community and allows students to form new friendships. And the last app we wanted to talk about today is called WiiU Things, designed by We Society. It's designed for ages 3 to 7. And it's an interactive book where you can create personalized characters, and which then are part of the story in an app. So you can create personalized character, taking into account your particular skills and abilities and interests, and then that character is included in the story. So it's really good for learning and understanding and appreciating diverse needs and differences. So this is what it looks like. You create a funny character, and then you read out story out loud with the character based on your personality. So for example, Ruth has a purple tooth, little dot gets scared a lot, Brad has 2 dads. What's your special you thing? Are you tall? Are you quite small? Do you have messy hair? Do you sneeze in the fall? You have many you things. Yep, you sure do. That's why it's so awesome to be friends with you. So it's really cute, and it's really good for home and for school environments to learn and appreciate different differences and different needs. So that was basically it, what we would like to talk today. Here are some sources. So those are the articles from University of Washington and University of Leeds. And we will share links to those with you via email, and I would really encourage you to have a look at them. They are really accessible. Not too much scientific jargon, and a lot of useful input from parents and kids with special needs as well. So I think we will open the floor to the questions now. If there's something that was unclear, or you would like to learn more about something in particular, feel free to pop your questions in the chat, and we will stay on the line for a little bit to answer the questions, and we can go back to something if you would like to see something again. And yeah, so feel free to post your questions in the chat. If you'd like to learn more about technology and inclusion and what we do here and how Cosmo supports that, feel free to visit our website or email us at hello@filisia.com, and we will be happy to chat. We also post some tips on inclusion and using technology for inclusive play on our social media. So you can find us under Filisia at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Some nice graphics on Instagram and tips on how to use Cosmo and other inclusive tools as well. We've got a question. What tools do you think are missing when addressing problems with bullying and low self-esteem in older children? That's a good question. Liz, if you want, I'm not sure if you want to unmute yourself as well to answer some of those questions. So the event will be accessible later. I think with tools to address problem with bullying and low self-esteem in older children, I think first and foremost, there needs to be more education at the low level, at the early stage. So tools such as WiiU Things or Sit With Us are a great tool to promote inclusion and the opportunities being accessible to all the kids, and that can help building self-esteem in older children as an effect, I would say.
I would also say what would be useful is some more facilitation by adults, particularly when children get older. There's the assumption that they'll be able to get on with things themselves, and particularly when some children have different interests. That does have an impact on self-esteem, definitely, if they feel like they have different interests than, you know, the people that they are around, or the other children that they are around. And when it comes to inclusive play generally with neurodiverse and neurotypical children, being able to find a point of interest is something that will make those things easier at a basic level. So I think that is something that I would say is definitely missing, is the facilitation of creating an environment where children can be around people with shared interests, and discussing what interests they may have in common, and then be able to find their confidence and feel more confident to include themselves in different play and social scenarios as well.
Yeah, and I think there are tools that can address those problems, but still not enough. Definitely, yeah, and I think that one of the things addressed in the research as well was what Liz, you mentioned, that we need to reinforce the common interests, and even saying, like, if two kids play together, excuse me, kids with disabilities and without disabilities, is just like purely saying and reinforcing, or you have the same end, like you like this and you like this, so you have things in common, and really concentrating on what we have in common than what's so different about us. But I would also say educating children without disabilities about diverse needs and diverse disabilities, because when I speak with people from different countries, and I'm originally from Poland, so there isn't any education when it comes to special needs, and children are just have that fear of the unknown, and adults have that fear of the unknown. So this is something really that we need to tackle and we need to work on. So it's just that unawareness of diverse needs, and what we can, like, how we can appreciate it, and how we can use it to work together. Yeah. So the event will be accessible on our website.
I feel as though sometimes young people are taught to ignore disabilities. Like, for example, if you see somebody in a wheelchair, you shouldn't stare and stuff, and those kind of social norms. However, I think to an extent that's a negative thing, because if a child or a young person has never seen a wheelchair before, and that is not in their realm of understanding, then there's a point there for education. And I think sometimes generally in society, we miss a lot of the cues and a lot of the points for education. And that, I guess, going back to like the older children, it means that sometimes children who are neurotypical or don't have disabilities, they don't know that they should persevere when trying to include, for example, someone with autism spectrum disorder. Trying to include them in a game might need more than one try, and might need a lot of perseverance. And I think maybe sometimes people don't know that that is something that they need to do. So I guess then that comes back to how much facilitation is happening from adults and supervisors in those arenas. So parents and you know, anybody who has influence there. So yeah, I think we have some societal problems that hopefully we can start to try and fix. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. There is still a lot to do across different age groups, definitely. But what I think is really crucial is to start at the very early age, because when kids are very young, they don't really see the differences and they don't concentrate on differences.
Yeah.
So as much reinforcement as we can put at the early ages, that can then transform to the later stage, and that can help overcome that fear of the unknown, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And a really big level of support could happen and could be facilitated through education and through schools. Like, for example, by using something like Cosmo in a classroom setting, will really help to showcase how people with disabilities can play the same game and have the same enjoyment as people without disabilities. So I think having more tools like Cosmo in classroom and in education can start to set the standard for how play outside the classroom can be solved and can be inclusive.
Cool. Not sure if there are any other questions that we could answer. Anything else you would like to learn about? If not, then I think we will be probably slowly finishing. There will be a satisfaction survey after we end the meeting. So if you could take 2 minutes to answer 2 quick questions, we would really, really appreciate it. And feel free to get in touch with us at hello@filisia.com, and the webinar, the recording will be shared on our website, so you can rewatch it, share it, and yeah, and it was really great to see you today and speak with you, and we hope to see you at our future webinars as well. Thanks, Lois, as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.